There's a new drug in town, and it's killing kids. The powerful narcotic is spreading across the metro and taking hold in the suburbs.
Tonight, Fox 9 investigator Jeff Ballion reveals what's behind this alarming trend.
From a gritty apartment in the city, where a constant drone of traffic pounds on the windows, the deals are set in motion.
In about an hour, I'm making a huge one.
All it takes is a phone call.
It's probably worth your while. You should definitely do it.
The pipeline is open and flowing. But what starts in the city doesn't stay here.
And it's really strong. You need to tell them to be careful. This is a different batch.
On the street, they call it black tar, hell dust, or thunder. On the cul-de-sac, they call it a cheap and powerful high.
Heroin user? For real?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I mean, it can happen to anybody.
This is the new face of heroin. Young, suburban, surprising.
I don't think it is on many parents' radar to think that their child may be a heroin addict.
Young Minnesotans are tapping into a ready supply smuggled here from Mexico.
I knew I could not stand by and watch all these young people being admitted to our unit and do nothing.
The problem so significant that chemical dependency experts gathered last month to plan a counteroffensive.
We have a heroin situation in this town, the likes of which we have never seen before.
What's available in the Twin Cities is some of the most pure, inexpensive heroin in the country. Whether it's smoked, snorted, or shot with a needle, overdoses are common. The drug fools the brain into thinking the body doesn't have to breathe.
I was found by Bloomington police, and I was found on the side of the road, and I wasn't moving, I wasn't responding. They thought I was dead.
Others haven't been so lucky.
But I don't wish any parent to ever go through it, ever.
Star Selleck walked into her Edina home and found her 19-year-old son, Ian, motionless on the floor.
I must have just missed him by minutes or less than minutes because I tried to do CPR.
The young man who played lacrosse at Edina High,
If you look at any pictures of him,
had an electric personality.
He has a smile that would just make everybody feel warm and welcome and loved. And
he was a gifted guitarist. A powerful dose of heroin snuffed out his life despite the desperate attempt by his mom to restart his heart.
You are forever changed, forever.
This year through September, 18 people have died in Hennepin County alone. Among the dead, several college students. Some just stopped breathing and went into cardiac arrest. Others lingered for a month from brain damage, then slipped away.
You think about them every day in some little way.
The greatest risk of overdose comes at first use or after a long period of abstaining.
How young are some of the kids you sell to?
The youngest I've seen, 16. Still in high school. Still living at home with his mom and dad.
This man is a dealer and a user.
How do you justify in your mind being able to sell to a kid that young?
They're going to get it regardless. And they started doing it before they met me.
His customers come from all over the metro and beyond. This fall, some teenagers from Crookston hopped a train to Minneapolis to buy from him.
How easy was it for you to get heroin?
It was really easy. All I had to do was hit one button on my phone and it was done. I mean, if that guy didn't answer, there was another number that you knew.
Emily hardly fits the image of a heroin addict.
I grew up in a Christian school. I went to a Christian school. I had Christian parents. I had a great mom. She stayed at home with us.
She grew up in an upper-middle-class home. She hung with a crowd that liked to get high on painkillers. She started snorting heroin because it was cheaper.
You don't think it's going to harm you because you're not sticking a needle in your arm.
Eventually, she graduated to needles.
You overdosed yourself?
Yeah.
What was that like?
I've overdosed on a couple different drugs, and I mean, it's scary. And you wake up and you still have a needle hanging in your arm that you still haven't shot yet, and you think like, oh, if I would have shot that, I wouldn't have waken up.
Nothing that you once hoped for will stand once you fall victim to that drug.
Rashawn has overdosed multiple times and witnessed others on death's doorstep. He had to call 911 once to save the life of a 16-year-old girl.
As I was on the phone with 911 and I was telling the operator that, her lips are turning blue and her face is white.
If the girl had died, he could have been prosecuted. He gave her the injection.
I mentioned earlier Wayzata, Edina, Lakeville.
Those are some of the suburbs represented in the clientele who come to Dr. Charlie Resnikoff for help.
As young as 16, 17 that I've seen, and all through the 20s that are using.
Many started with painkillers, then progressed to the big H. How does someone so young get hooked on heroin?
There's a very high risk that they have ADHD, anxiety, they've had some past trauma or severe depression, and they need that addressed and treated as a primary goal.
At this clinic, addicts are given methadone to keep withdrawal symptoms at bay.
It was awful.
Both Emily and Rashawn
I've been here 8 months.
quit cold turkey.
This is a picture of Jerusalem.
They're enrolled at Minnesota Teen Challenge,
Done in pencil, I
a
believe.
faith-based treatment program.
My mom caught me in a lie, and I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't have another lie in me. I didn't have another. I knew God didn't want me out there anymore.
The man who deals would like to stop selling
This would probably kill a normal person.
and using.
It's a slow process.
He begins each day with an injection. Otherwise, the physical pain is unbearable.
What I just did will last me pretty much all day.
Somehow, he rationalizes in his mind that it's okay to sell heroin if you tell the customer how to use it in a way that minimizes their risk of dying.
A lot of people are going to see this interview and they're going to wonder, why would you talk to a reporter about what you do?
I think the more people know about what's really going on, they might be more helpful to the next person or to themselves.
In the treatment community, they call heroin the devil's medicine.
Never tell yourself it can't happen to me.
It's a drug that in Minnesota no longer has boundaries. Inner city, suburb, small town, it's there. And it's after our kids.
You may not feel it in everyday life, but your moms and your dads love you an awful lot. You don't ever want to have to picture them at your funeral.
Families are getting blindsided. Mom and dad have no clue their kid is into heroin until they end up in the emergency room or dead. Star Selleck is hoping the story of her son Ian will draw attention to this problem and get families talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That always seems to be the first step, and such a critical one. And when you look at the addiction here, a lot of that has to do, it seems like, with the purity of the form of the drug. And apparently in Minnesota, it's pretty high.
It's one of the highest in the country, if not the highest, and it's believed that there's a concerted effort by the drug suppliers to do that, to give pure heroin here at a cheap price. It's a marketing ploy to get people hooked.
Really get them hooked.
And then cut the quality, jack up the price.
Boy, you see your story here, Jeff, and part of me wants to reach through the screen and grab this dealer around the neck, really. But the other part of me is he's trying to do something about it, and he's stepping forward. And all the while, I know a lot of people are saying, where are these drugs coming from?
Well, primarily from Mexico. The Mexican drug cartels have their sights set on Minnesota because there's money here and there's a growing demand.
Wow.
Yeah, and some of those cities that you mentioned and that you profiled, real eye-openers tonight.
Everywhere. Nobody's immune from this.
Yeah. Okay,
Thanks,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much.